Welcome to Now Serving, a Side of Therapy, your intro guide into the therapeutic world. Together, we'll explore various aspects around how to show up for ourselves and others by tending to our own mental and emotional well-being. I'm your host, Dalton Huckaby, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm grateful you've joined me. We see ourselves differently sometimes in the way other people see us, right? So when we think about kind of like how do we move towards a secure attachment style from either of these other three that we've discussed, either from disorganized or anxious or avoidant, right? How can we move towards secure attachment style? Part of that is being open to receiving that feedback, right? To say, okay, then maybe I can try something different to kind of, like you said, kind of have that more kind of attuned relationship, right? And also, what I heard you say is that we try to model for clients, right, a kind of secure attachment styles. Whenever we kind of find ourselves in some of these other non-attuned places, if you will, then how do we kind of then develop that sense of, enough dependence on someone else to kind of take that feedback in, right? But then also kind of trusting that we can try and engage in these other behaviors in this new and different way, which takes a lot of work because, to your point, right, we have our blind spot. And so we're basically going against the grain anytime we're trying something new. So it can be a lot of work.
It's really challenging stepping outside of our usual patterns or orbits that we get stuck in, right? I kind of think of it almost like a planet in orbit, and we're trying to make a little switch of behavior, which might throw us off the orbit. So then how do we calibrate to that new way of being? How do we keep practicing that way of being? My needs are and what I need to be the best version of myself in a sustainable way, not just today, I'm going to be 110% Vita, I'm going to be excelling. How do I consistently show up for people I care about on a day-by-day basis? How do I take care of my body and my emotional health and my mental health so that I can continue showing up for myself and other people? Because I'm trying to build a sustainable model, not just one where I'm at my best one day and then crashing down the next.
Especially when we think about gravity, right? And then it's like other people are going to try to keep pulling us back, right? And so I was actually listening to something this morning that made me think about whenever we are like trying something different, right? Trying to work on like self-improvement or whatnot, right? But then other people in our lives are still like, they're used to us being a particular way. And now we're trying to be a different way. They're like, wait a minute, you're not the same. What's going on here?
It's very disorienting for people in our relationships, especially like maybe the family members that we're in relationship with, right? If we're continuing to be in relationship with them, that suddenly we're not going to be engaging with them in the same way, in that same pattern of conflict maybe that we're used to, right? Maybe somebody calls somebody desperate on the phone complaining about another family member, and we're suddenly like, hey, actually, when you talk to me about this other family member and you're complaining about them, that impacts my relationship with them. And that kind of is hard for me to navigate. Can you please find someone who's not so much involved in the family unit and talk to them about it to kind of get a little bit more separation? I want to have a healthier relationship with all of you guys. That might be hard.
Yeah. Very hard. And so you're talking about like engaging in new forms of communication.
Absolutely.
New ways of communicating with others. Just to read it right by Marshall Rosenberg, Nonviolent Communication, right? So words and the way we think matters. Find common ground with anyone, anywhere, at any time, both personally and professionally. Mm-hmm. But I love that. Words and the way we think matters. Kind of like we were talking about earlier, right? There could be these blaming and shaming tendencies that come up, right? Or like you said, like trying to find fault or who's right and who's wrong. And so again, habitual patterns of dealing with, any kind of conflicts that we might come across in relationship with others, but falling back to this aspect of nonviolent communication as a kind of like as a guide to
Mhm.
help us through that.
Yeah, I really love NVC model. I think it's such a beautiful concept and really like simplified into 4 steps that you have to learn how to properly do them. But it's manageable and it's something that anyone can adopt, I believe. And it really helps promote emotional awareness, emotional maturity, accountability, but also vulnerability at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was reading through the book, I was like, I didn't know you could say things that way, right? And so when I work with clients around the NVC model, like they like you said, the 4 steps, right? Where they observe, right? How do I feel in response to the observation? What do I need? And then the request, which
Right.
is based on the need, right? And the last two can tend to be based on values, right? And so I will have clients just look, it's 4 steps. Print it out, like it's on your fridge, right? If you have a conflict with someone, right, then just kind of go to that and kind of review that later on once you're calmed down and see how did it go.
Yeah. And I've noticed working with clients with the NVC model, the step that we get most stuck on most often, that's really difficult, is when clients have insecure attachment. Number 4 is so hard. Actually identifying and expressing your needs through a request, actually being vulnerable enough to be like, hey, not only is like number 3, like identifying your own needs, but also then making the request to go outside of yourself. Like, I'm not just going to take care of my own needs, like with the, avoidant type, but I'm actually going to ask for my needs to be met. With the anxious attachment also, like I have needs, but like I don't want to be needy. Like, can I even make a request? Like, it's so hard. So actually, like processing that one and processing all the emotions and traumas attached to making a request is really hard. Yeah.
You tied those two in together because before today, I hadn't thought about tying in nonviolent communication with attachment styles, but you just kind of really beautifully just tied those in that example. And um, regarding the request, right? The request is not, I need you to stop doing this or I need you to stop being whatever, right? Like that is not the request.
Absolutely. The request is not, I need you to stop expletive, like being like we're not using derogatory language. We're not making accusations here. The request is very much trying to be realistic and boundaried about, hey, here I just shared a need with you. Could I make a request for you to maybe stop doing XYZ because now you understand the impact of it on me? Or maybe instead, even offering an alternative, a positive action. So not taking something away, but actually integrating something new into the relationship instead.
Yeah, and to that point, right, it does take two people, right? So if there's one person who's just practicing nonviolent communication, likely not going to make any changes in the relationship because it takes two. So it really kind of takes, like you said, being able to voice it, but then also someone else to be able to kind of take that and acknowledge it and then respond to, right, in again in an attuned way.
Absolutely. And part of it also that I really try and encourage clients to be aware of is number 1, we need to make sure of how centered we are in ourselves as we do the NVC model, because we're not trying to like say the right words, but be angry as we're saying them. That's not going to come across well. So we really have to be mindful of where we're at emotionally as we're communicating this nonviolent communication model, and then also being mindful of who we're communicating it to. If the person that who's receiving this, whether they know the NVC model or not, are they someone who's going to respect our boundaries? Are they someone who's consistently shown up for us as someone who respects our boundaries, who wants to continue building a solid relationship with us, who has enough emotional maturity to receive this?
So what would you say then if here, we're kind of talk about this, how it kind of takes a two-way street, right? What if like one person, was going to take any kind of relationship, right? But one person is striving to practice this, but then someone else just isn't in that place to be able to kind of meet them where they're at. Even though my way might be different from yours, can you still meet me in that space, right? You're again, we go back to that. No person's way is better than anyone else's way, right? It's just, again, based on our childhood and our, and growing up and how we've all developed these own, our again, what makes us tick, right? Where everybody's unique in that way. And so I think therein, that's part of the challenge in working with clients around attachment styles, right? Is like being able to getting out of ourselves and seeing what's going on for them as the person, right? And working with them as a whole person.
It's a cool dynamic to be in, and like my heart goes out because I've also been on the receiving end of that. Is that it's really hard when you want to continue the relationship, but the other person's not meeting you where you're at. You're expressing, you're being vulnerable, right? You're really taking accountability. Like, here are my needs. Like, I'm not making you take responsibility for my emotions, but consistently I'm sharing through this model that something in this relationship is hurting me. Something's making me feel upset, not seen. Can we please try and change the behaviors or dynamics? And they're not changing. It's up to me to decide is this relationship serving me or not? And when I work with my clients, I never encourage them to cut off relationships. Like, as the first step, we need to be in relation with others. We're social creatures. Community and communication is so important. But also it's important for us to be surrounded with people who respect our boundaries. And boundaries don't mean, I'm not going to let you do this. Like, it's not about like changing the other person. It's about changing ourselves. So, hey, maybe if you do this, then here's what I'm going to do. Take care of myself. If you're going to continue to use language that hurts me, I'm going to probably go have to take a walk for 30 minutes and I'll come back. And maybe we can revisit this, but I'm not going to let you talk to me this way. Boundaries are there for me to understand what my needs are and what I need to be the best version of myself in a sustainable way. Not just today, I'm going to be 110% Vita. I'm going to be excelling. How do I consistently show up for people I care about on a day-by-day basis? How do I take care of my body and my emotional health and my mental health so that I can continue showing up for myself and other people? Because I'm trying to build a sustainable model, not just one where I'm at my best one day and then crashing down the next. Interestingly, also, I wanted to note, I don't know if you've seen this in your clients or just in personal relationships, but I've noticed that attachment styles can morph depending on who we're in relationship with or as we get older, which I did not learn about when I was younger.
Absolutely, yes. And being almost 52, I can attest, yes, attachment styles can change over time. And like you said, it's somehow there's something about too, kind of like, which is why finding the correct client therapist fit is so important, right? Because sometimes you get two people together and they're just like this, right? Attachment style with someone that you're clashing with is going to be different than, maybe like a long-term friend that knows you really well and has maybe supported you through a lot, right? So like you said, attachment styles can show up differently in the same day with different people, right?
Think of it maybe a little granola of me, but it's kind of like different ecosystems, right? That are coming.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, like, some ecosystems, there's like an overlap, maybe like with a friendship where there's some intimacy, but not the same level of intimacy, say, as you would have with an intimate partner, where those are really merged. And so that's going to be way more stuff coming up on a deeper level than with friends, just naturally, because they are so much more involved in those deeper crevices of you, the shame, the vulnerabilities. Friendships are beautiful and those are really important, but I just haven't noticed those things sparking up as much in terms of conflict as with intimate partners, in my own experience.
Yeah, right. And people will even say, and I've found this true for myself, and clients will talk about it. It's like I can be different with a friend and then come home and be different with my partner. You know what I mean? But I think part of it too, like you said, is like, I don't know, maybe like there's the trust stuff, right? Or maybe fear stuff that comes up, right? Like if there's a certain conflict going on, my friend has got no skin in the game, right? But the partner might. So then that just kind of gives some kind of insight into how maybe the dynamics of the situation that are going on, right, might contribute to how it comes to the variability of attachment style that we experience.
Yeah, it's that level, extra level of like what we have with our parents of like, I want you to know me. I want you to really know me. Like, I want you to know my fears. And like, obviously, you should know that I hate XYZ. And I obviously want you to know that I would love this for you to do this. Like, I want you to know everything about me. I want you to know me without me even having to tell you what I need. It's that, it's that core visceral desire of like, I want you to know me without me having to tell you. And it's that dream I think that we all have that's not going to actually manifest well. So we do have to take on the responsibility of actually sharing that with people that we're
with our nonviolent communication skills. Yeah. But to your point too, like you said, it's, what gives hope to the process of therapy is that, yes, we may find ourselves stuck. Right. Like you said, we might kind of find ourselves in this, these other kind of, attachment style, non-secure attachment styles. But the idea is that, hey, if we can kind of show up and talk about them and work through them and kind of put forth our, best efforts around awareness and behavior changes and all this stuff towards that secure attachment, then it doesn't have to stay stuck forever. And there's still going to be those underlying things that, hey, they're just a part of us and they'll probably be with us our whole lives, right? But kind of like we were talking about, once we know ourselves, then we can start to learn how to work with it instead of against it.
Absolutely. Having more spaciousness, using mindfulness to create the sense of self, like clarity of like, well, who am I and what do I actually want? Not operating from the pattern that I'm used to, but what do I want for myself and my future? And creating that choice is so empowering, right? Especially when we feel like we're
So empowering.
rebelling or absorbing the patterns that we're used to. Like finally, it's like, oh, I get to make a new pattern. Maybe I don't know what it is, but I know that I don't want to keep reacting from the other chains of patterns.
Yeah, and what I kind of like to think of too is like that energy that's like you said, we've identified something that's not working for us anymore, right? So the kind of the same energy that kind of went into those habitual patterns, is it possible to kind of take that energy and focus and putting it into something else that does work for us, that does create a more meaningful and kind of fruitful, happy life for ourselves?
Right. And I'm going to geek out maybe on them just for a minute.
Please do.
With like quantum physics, I don't know, I haven't studied it extensively, but there's a large focus on the interconnectedness between internal and external reality. So even with creating a change in the patterns and the way we operate, they're not always predictable, right? The behaviors that we do might be predictable based on the patterns that we're used to because those channels in our brains have like really gotten solidified. But doing something outside the norm for ourselves, that's kind of like a quantum leap, right? We're hopping off of this chain of reaction and we're actually changing it. We have another option now that we can actually pursue. And the more we practice that, the more neural pathways or even like quantum chains that are opening up to us in terms of creating a new external reality that didn't exist before.
And thus a new path.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I love the quantum leap. Like I am like dying over that right now. Like that's being able to feel like, can we take this quantum leap in our lives? Right. That must exactly how it feels to people, right? When we're trying to engage in new behaviors. But also kind of like the same time, like you said, it's like we were in this one particular orbit, but then now we're trying to go with this other orbit, but then the gravity or kind of like these people who thought that were kind of used to us being a particular way may be trying to pull us back, right? So again, there might be kind of this push and pull, but yeah, I love that idea of take the quantum leap. I love that.
Yeah, I'm gonna make that a slogan or something on my website. We'll see.
Do it. I strongly encourage that.
It's hard for me to stop seeing things as interconnected so much because like you saw me with the attachment and then like, ooh, like what about parentified child and like what about NVC through all of it and then IFS too, and it's like, wait, it's all like
It all is interconnected, right? And so going with your kind of universal language here, right? Like the world of therapy is so big, right? And so we get like where we get our information obviously is important, right? But also to know that because it's such a huge world out there, right? A huge universe, right? Out there, like we're just a tiny little speck, right? And so kind of like these ideas that we're talking about are just kind of like a portion of kind of like the bigger picture or the bigger whole of what's at play here.
yeah, we're just exploring one of the galaxies.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, and how things interrelate, right? And so there really is a lot of different ways to be looking at things. And that's honestly, that's kind of part of why I started this podcast too, is just like I feel like we all deserve, right, the ability to be able to have like access, like free access to information, right? So if somebody's not able to engage in therapy, or maybe they just don't want to, right, go to therapy, but maybe they still want to like learn about other things, right, that are kind of like therapeutic in nature, that maybe they can kind of like maybe think about for themselves as they want, right? Maybe it could be the avoidant attachment style, who knows, right? The hyper independence, but but
Or
still, but
sometimes it's the cultural background where therapy is actually like therapy is like going to make you crazy. What are you, insane to go to therapy? Like I grew up in a culture which therapy has a negative connotation. Mental illness has that negative like perspective of you have to be really unstable to go to therapy. So I totally understand why some people are not still ready. So I'm hoping that this kind of like podcast that you're introducing, Dalton, can help it become a little bit more tangible and accessible of what we do here versus all the negative connotations that are attached.
exactly, yeah, that we might have learned. Yeah, even again, kind of going back to earlier childhood, right? Growing up, like I even thought, man, we should probably go to therapy, like it'd be so helpful. And then, without me even saying anything, then the parents come back, oh, therapy is, blah blah. Yeah, there's all these like negative connotations towards it, like you said. Yeah, but it really can kind of like, kind of give us this foundation for learning more about ourselves and how we navigate throughout the world. And if we find ourselves stuck or in a place where we're not happy, like there's still some more understanding and work that we can do around that to kind of get unstuck. And yeah, so
And kind of like working on that calcification, right? Like uncalcifying maybe again, there's so many different ways, analogies that I keep using, whether it's the galaxies or the body. But like, right, it's like calcified tissue and like we just want to like zap that scar tissue and we kind of want to work on it and create more flexibility, more movement, more options for how we might want to interact in the world or with ourselves. So
yeah, I have a massage therapy background. So, right, what do you do with the calcification? Got to get in there and like you go against the grain. You literally go against the grain in order to break it up. So
yeah,
when we talk about going against the grain, like literally, it's what you're doing.
called fashion.
Yeah, the fascia. And then you got trigger points, right?
Oh,
All sorts of stuff.
it's amazing how much like the mental and emotional and then also the physical, right? The overlap between the mind and body. It's amazing.
It's fascinating stuff. Again, right? Big universe out there. Or just a tiny dot. Well, I really appreciate the chat today with you, Vita, around this. You really provided some valuable insights and some awareness, right? And some other information to think about and how we intertwine, communication with, addressing some of our, attachment styles. I thought was pretty genius.
Thank you, Dalton. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm always happy to enter dialogue with anyone, really, because we're exploring each other's ways of understanding the world and ourselves in it. So I think that's beautiful.
Thanks for tuning in this week. Be sure to check out our next episode as we continue to explore more elements of your therapeutic journey.